Alright, so today I want to compare the two current strongest Vanguard units in the game, excluding Diavolo, because Diavolo, despite being strong, is, in my opinion, the third strongest Vanguard pretty clearly. I think the one that's most curious and talked about right now is which is better between Gogeta and Songjinwoo Vanguard. So that's what we're gonna talk about today because I have Monarch on both of them actually. By the way guys, we are kind of close to 50k subscribers. We just did our 45k battle pass giveaway yesterday in the previous video. Now at 50k subscribers, once we do get to it, we will be doing an even bigger giveaway. So please don't forget to like and subscribe and join our Discord community down below. Alright, so before I start this video, because I tend to yap a lot, I'm just gonna tell you guys the answer right now straight away, that there's a very clear winner here, and the winner is not Gogeta. It's 100% Songjinwoo Vanguard, and it's not really even close. If we're gonna take a look at the categories that we're gonna talk about, a lot of people are probably gonna say, well, Gogeta does more DPS. But yeah, it's not always just which unit has more DPS. You also have to take into consideration how good they are with other traits, can they be stunned, how expensive they are, their placement, their passives, how well they work with other units, and their entire kit. So let's actually go over a few things here. Let's first start with DPS because that's the one that a lot of people really take a look at. So we are going to have 5 categories right here. So just so that you guys know, we're gonna have DPS, we're gonna have price, we're gonna have effective traits, we're gonna have kit, which includes the passives, ability, and etc. And then we're gonna have element because that's actually pretty important. So these are the 5 things that we're gonna cover and compare them both in today's video. So without further ado, let's get started with the first one, which is DPS. Now, in terms of DPS, this is actually a pretty interesting conversation because Gogeta is, spoiler alert, only really good with Monarch because he's a one placement unit. So Gogeta being a one placement unit needs to have Monarch in order to have his max DPS. Songjinwoo doesn't actually need that because he can work with both, with basically any trait in the game and still keep his DPS. However, for the sake of this, part, I am going to make sure that they have the most effective trait on them. So I am going to give Gogeta his Monarch, and I'm going to give Songjinwoo his Monarch as well because Songjinwoo Vanguard with Monarch does have, higher DPS than non-Songjinwoo Vanguard Monarch, okay? So for the first one, DPS, we're going to give it to Gogeta, and this is actually not even going to be close. Gogeta, even though he needs Monarch to actually be usable, once he does get Monarch, he's actually unbeatable in terms of DPS. Just to put it into perspective, Gogeta with Monarch can average around 100,000 DPS. There's not a unit that comes close to doing consistent DPS in the same level as Gogeta does. Aizen with Monarch, I believe, can do like 200,000 DPS for like 15 seconds, and the enemy has to basically be kissing his model. Gogeta can basically do it from any point, and as long as his passives are close to being maxed out. So 100,000 DPS for Gogeta is pretty insane. Now the next one right here is actually going to be the price, which is how much they cost to place down and how much they cost to upgrade. Specifically how much they cost to upgrade, because that is very, very, very important. And unfortunately, one of the other reasons why Gogeta 100% needs to have Monarch is because of how expensive Gogeta is to max, costing somewhere around 160,000. Oh, this is based on the AnimeDefenders wiki right here. He is around 184,000 to max out, which by the way, I believe is the most expensive unit in the game. Songjinwoo Vanguard is actually around, how much is he? 105,700 to max out only. So he's actually a lot cheaper than Gogeta, like 80,000 cheaper. Now let's talk about how much they are to place down. Gogeta is 1,200 to place down, but Songjinwoo Vanguard is 1,700. So it's honestly not that big of a difference, and I am going to give this to Songjinwoo Vanguard because Songjinwoo Vanguard being 100,000 to max and Gogeta being 183,000 to max is just pretty clear on who is just more cost effective or who just wins this, tier. The next one is going to be the effective traits, and to not yap, I'm just basically going to tell you this. Gogeta is only good with Monarch, so Songjinwoo Vanguard wins this because Songjinwoo Vanguard is good with literally any trait except for Solar. Okay, any mythic trait except for Solar, right? Songjinwoo Vanguard is meta for infinite leaderboard if you have Deadeye on him. Songjinwoo Vanguard is meta everywhere if you have Monarch on him, or if you have Ethereal on him, he's meta anywhere. So yeah, Sung Jinwoo Vanguard being cheaper means he can actually use those other traits, and the fact that he's also cheap placement and Gogeta is, you know, one placement only, that's pretty much a clear winner here. Sung Jinwoo Vanguard is more effective with any trait, while Gogeta is basically Monarch or nothing. Now, this last one here is where things are going to take a lot longer, so if you do not like a lot of yapping, then I'm gonna try and summarize it here. Sung Jinwoo Vanguard has a lot of kit, a lot of abilities, a lot of passives compared to Gogeta. Gogeta is basically just a DPS stick, and while Gogeta can, you know, teleport all over the map and do all that thing, Sung Jinwoo Vanguard still wins this because of just how versatile he is. Basically, he has 3 nukes, he has summons, and he has relatively high DPS. And the way you use his summons can actually affect how a match will turn out. And then, yeah, that's pretty much one of the reasons why Sung Jinwoo Vanguard is a lot better. To put it into perspective, when I did my solo Rifts video, I actually did test it with Gogeta, and, you know, more DPS and the fact that he can teleport all over the map was actually very good. But Sung Jinwoo having, you know, his nukes and his summons and all those other things that he have made Sung Jinwoo Vanguard last longer than Gogeta did. So when I tested Gogeta Monarch in Rifts, he lasted all the way until wave 16 and then lost. Sung Jinwoo Vanguard made it all the way to wave 20 and probably could have won if I had different units. And this is mainly because his nukes and also his summons, it's just way too versatile and way too useful. Even though he doesn't have, you know, the higher DPS, and even though he can't teleport, his nukes and his summons are super versatile, and they can basically do a lot of things that you want them to do. And that's why we're going to give this to Sung Jinwoo Vanguard as well. But honestly, Gogeta and his teleport ability is really OP, so Gogeta might not be that far off in terms of kit. But right now, Sung Jinwoo Vanguard just has way more uses, in my opinion. And last but not the least is going to be the element. And there's also a clear winner for this, and it's Sung Jinwoo Vanguard. Sung Jinwoo Vanguard's element is unknown, and basically what that means is Sung Jinwoo Vanguard is number 1, unaffected by all status ailments, so that's pretty good. Number 2, it also makes him usable in every stage of world lines. He's not affected by anything in world lines. You can even use him in Infinite Tsukuyomi, so Sung Jinwoo and Igris Vanguard is actually the single best unit to use in world lines. And then apart from that, they also do true damage to all elements, and they also bypass element reactions, which is just broken. So yeah, Sung Jinwoo Vanguard wins in pretty much every category except for DPS, honestly. The DPS of Gogeta is never going to be beaten for a long time, and I think that's really where Gogeta shines. Gogeta Monarch is basically the unit you use if you want to, you know, get MVP. Sung Jinwoo Vanguard is basically the unit you use if you want a complex unit and a lot of strategies that you can use, because honestly, Sung Jinwoo Vanguard having multiple abilities and multiple nukes means that when you launch and use those nukes, when you use those summons, which summons you use does affect how the fight or the stage will play out or turn out. So that's pretty much it for today's video. And again, I didn't include Diavolo here because I think Diavolo is a top 3 Vanguard unit. I just don't think he comes close. Well, he is good, but I just don't think he's better than these 2. So yeah, there you go. Pretty much have the answer now to which is better. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.